Alrighty. So just going to really quickly, or maybe not so quickly because I never know when to shut up, explain this cool thing that I am very excited to be holding in my hands right now. Um, let's take a look here. 430 something hardback volume entitled Theories on Everything, Volume 1. Subtitle there, Shorter Writings 2024 to 2025. And then there's my name, and then there's me talking to the news. They never actually aired that, but it's still kind of a cool picture. Um, so what exactly is this thing? This is basically an anthology, a collection of my various Substack articles that I've written. Obviously, I started posting that kind of stuff in 2024, and then so basically what I just did is compiled everything from that point to everything from last year, 2025, and I just put this together so that all of those internet articles that I'm going to emphasize are already free. You don't have to pay a single penny to me or to anyone to read those. I just, for the sake of having my records, I mean, you can see behind me that I'm clearly a person who enjoys physical books, basically a bibliophile in that regard. And I thought, you know what, I would like to have a physical, something I can take, put on a shelf. The camera's actually on one of my bookshelves right now. Um, and just to have, okay, just kind of whatever as a keepsake thing, or just for my records, you know, because who knows, maybe I don't know, all my stuff gets taken off the internet, but I still have it copied in this. But then I was kind of thinking I'm already someone who's published on Amazon in the past, so it just made sense for me to use Kindle, print on demand, or whatever the heck it's called, and to just do it that way instead of some other service or something like that. And so basically, I just did this because I wanted to have it just as kind of as a personal thing. But then I got to thinking, well, if I'm going to use Amazon to do it, it's going to be available for sale. So I'm thinking, my kind of thought is I write things and I'm going to open up the table of contents and just to, for the heck of it, the kind of stuff that I write about, especially on my Substack, there have been exceptions, but I'm not typically writing just about things that are current events or some kind of polemical response. And even at times when I have done that, for example, when I responded to one of Doug Wilson's blogs where he was talking about hyperpreterism, I agree with Doug that hyperpreterism is wrong and everything like that. But I didn't really like the way he was arguing about that. And if you want to just go on the internet and look that up, type in LJ Ramsey, which is my name, Doug Wilson, biblicism and preterism. It's something like that. Or when the Right Response Ministries did a podcast where they were talking about church history, and I thought they were just saying all kinds of things that needed responding to. I wrote about that, but even in those responses, I'm responding to them in a type of way that the things that I'm going to be saying are still going to be true 20 years from now, even if no one knows who Doug Wilson or Joel Webbon, or I mean even I am, for that matter. Like the One to Right Response gets into church history and all these different things. But generally speaking, like a lot of this is stuff that's just about various ideas or various issues in doctrine and theology. And so there they're things that are going to be relevant for a long time. And people, I don't have a huge Substack or anything like that, but the people who have subscribed to it and have read some of the things that I've put out have always expressed appreciation. I kind of bring a unique voice because I'm not a scholar. I'm someone who is basically blue collar, but obviously reads a lot and studies a lot and likes to write. And so I try to bring things that would be of scholarly quality, depending on what they are, but that are for a popular audience. And I'm a Van Tillian, a presuppositionalist, also a Reformed Baptist, and different things like that. So I come at things from a particular perspective that colors and characterizes a lot of this stuff. And I'm just kind of rambling like right now. Maybe that's why people haven't appreciated this. But anyway, all that to say is I figured, you know what? I wanted to make this just so that I could have it for my records. And even though all of these articles, everything other than, like, I wrote a short preface that's about like a page and a half long, I think. Everything in this is already free on the internet. Okay. So I'm not saying you need to go run out and buy this thing immediately, because you don't need to. This is basically in case there's people out there. I have a couple people who are paid subscribers to the Substack. Now, I don't have any content on there that's for paid members only. I'm not saying that it's wrong if someone else does that. I just haven't personally done that. But because we're Christians, and my writings are Christian writings, from someone who is in ministry and brings a Christian worldview and the scriptures to the things that he's addressing. Christians want to support that type of stuff. So I figured I could just put this out basically as a way that if you want to contribute, in a small way to actually supporting the things that I am putting out, you can do that while also getting something in return. And if your heart is so moved, you can become a paid subscriber and give regularly. But I figured this would be a way that's you can support while actually having something in your hand. And it's something that the reason why you're supporting is because you appreciate the writing and stuff like that. And so then you get to have something that, I mean, it's just a Kindle print on demand thing, but it's quality. It'll look nice up on your shelf. If I continue with this, I'll make subsequent volumes consistent and everything like that. I forget exactly off the top of my head. If you go and purchase this on Amazon, it's like 30 something dollars, and you go, that's a lot of money. Well, that's because it's a 400-page hardback. So a lot of that, I'll just be honest, is going to the printing and the shipping and stuff like that. My royalty, if you buy this, is about $10. So, just to be honest about everything, like I said, I'm not trying to be a peddler here or anything like that. But nobody needs to buy this, because almost every single word in here is already free. But it's just kind of something that there might be two people out there that think this is a cool thing and want to check it out or want to purchase it. And I would obviously greatly appreciate that. Not just the support, but the fact that you would even be so moved as to want something like this. So it's called Theories on Everything, Volume 1. And I basically came up with that title just because I thought it was kind of clever. Because you have like the theory on everything, and which I'll be honest, I'm not even smart enough to explain to you what that's about, but And so I just kind of thought it was like a poetic thing. Like I knew they did that Stephen Hawking movie that I think was called that, but this is not the theory on everything. This is theories, plural, on everything. And the reason why I came to that title is because when you actually open this thing up, there is, if you go to the table of contents, you'll see there's 40 chapters, okay? Which just means that it was 40 articles that I had published in that period of time. Some of them are very, very lengthy and very long, and some of them are very short. But I'll just start reading through these, and you can see why theories on everything make sense. So, the very first, maybe I'll just tell the story a little bit of why I started even writing these in the first place. Um, a dear brother, John Brandt, uh, basically suggested to me that I started doing it, but at first I wasn't doing it on Substack. It was on this platform called Medium that he was getting into, and he was reading a lot of stuff on there. And he's like, "Logan, you should have your voice on there. You have things to say that people need to hear." I'm like, "Okay," but I didn't really like Medium because it's like a paid thing, which means that it's not dependent upon ad revenue, and so it's like a decentralized free speech kind of idea, which is neat. But the problem is in order to read anything on there, people have to pay for Medium, and I'm like, well, I just thought it was so counterintuitive. I want to write things and share them, tell people, hey, you need to check it out, and it's like you have to sign up and give money to some thing or whatever. So I started. I've done like articles on X before. The reason I was looking over there is because where my computer is, and so I guess when I talk about that, I look towards it. Um, but I found Substack to just be the best because on Substack I have my own URL, domain name, ljramsey.org. I'm not an organization. I'm just one person, so it's not totally accurate, but ljramsey.org just sounded official. Um, the good doctor, and he knows who he is, just messaged me, and he distracted me. But anyway, so I started doing Substack, and I like Substack for a lot of reasons. I have a couple guys on there that I follow that I really enjoy. So the first thing I ever wrote was on the death penalty. So if you go and you get Theories and Everything, Volume 1, Chapter 1 is Death Penalty, Church and State Distinction. Basically, there was some guy on the internet that was decrying against the death penalty, and so that's what I kind of wrote a response to that. Then you have number 2, Created Equal, question mark, which is basically a critique of Marxist egalitarianism. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written. It came to me not in a dream, but I was lying in bed, and I even had, there are quotes in that art, like I was like, I want to quote it all came to me. By the way, Created Equal, that article I'm talking about, if you have this book, Slavery in the Bible, which is my best-selling book, it's included as one of the appendices back there. But then you have Blind Justice and the Pro-Life Failure, kind of an abolitionist apologetic thing. God's Law and the Sojourner. And all that stuff is like very ethical focused and things like that. But then the next is, so I read the Quran, Christian analysis. Basically, I read the Quran, so I gave it a Christian analysis. Pretty self-explanatory. It's actually very interesting, because it's just an interesting topic. Then I have Faith and Fitness, basically giving an explanation of how Christians should take care of their health and that sort of thing. Then I'm just going to skip some. I have Romans chapter 9, Nations or Individuals, kind of an exegesis of Romans 9 and a defense of Calvinism from that text. Then I have the creedal view of the incarnation, which is kind of, I wrote it as like a Christmas thing, but basically going through the early church creeds and Christological controversies and stuff like that. Then I have, uh, I'm just laughing because I've never actually said this out loud, but chapter 17 is wandering, meandering thoughts into the dark realms of depression and suicide. Now, I know I'm laughing as I read that, but it's only just because it's so dramatic uh, that I'm like giving a nervous laughter, apparently. Then I have Protestant Catholic divide still matters. I have, this is my favorite thing. Chapter 22 is called Up or Down, the Reformation and Natural Law Theology. By the way, like I said, as I'm reading these things, all if any of this stuff's on it, it's all free already. You don't have to buy this. I'm just telling you about what's in it. That article I'm talking about, Up or Down, the Reformation and Natural Law Theology, is basically giving. It's basically my defense of Van Tillianism and presuppositionalism and theonomy, saying that those things were a necessary development if you trace history and philosophy. Um, so that's I realize that how nerdy and odd that sounds, but it's going to be interesting to some people. Then I have In Defense of Protestant Piety. I have chapter 28 here, Thoughts on Reading. Then the next chapter 30, Tolkien should have read Van Til. That's a fun one. Uh, and I'm not going to keep reading all of these, but basically the idea is just that such a diverse range of things are addressed, but they're all being addressed from the same point of view, which is mine. And so they're my theories because it's funny because, a theory is not the same as a fact. So it's sort of like a false humility thing. Like I'm just saying, hey, these are just my theories on everything. Like these are just what I happen to think about all these random topics. So that's the story behind the title. And then the picture here, I will tell you the story about that. We were down in Columbus, Ohio, for there was some kind of thing going on. I don't remember what it was now. It was called the People's March, and some kind of liberal thing or whatever. And so Heritage Restored, we were down there with our signs and doing our thing, doing our evangelism and our street apologetics. And while we were down there, uh, my buddy Nathan seen some lady walking around who's from the news, and she was like, "Hey, you have to interview my buddy Logan." And so there's actually I cropped her out of it just out of respect for her. But you can see like her microphone, and I thought it was just a funny picture. They never aired the interview. I was really disappointed. I checked like every day for the next 2 weeks, but I thought the picture was kind of representative of the things that are in this volume because a lot of the times I'm addressing, cultural, ethical areas, and so that's sort of like you have the idea of just this guy standing there in a flannel jacket with a Duluth Trading Company hat on, talking to some well dressed lady in the news, basically telling her that Jesus Christ is Lord and everything that follows from that. So that's basically what that is all about. I'm gonna slide it there on the shelf, and so I'll drop a link below. I think I'm just gonna post this video on Twitter. So if you want to go on Amazon and buy this and support the work, something you can do. Like I said, you don't have to. All that stuff is free already if you just go to ljramsey.org or you go on Substack and you type in my name. That's not a very, I realize it's not very creative, but my plan is I already have two things that I've published on the Substack since the beginning of this year, which and I'll continue to do things throughout the year, and probably even if no one buys this and no one cares about it, I'll probably just do it again. Like I said, it's just something that I kind of wanted, but it gives people an opportunity to support. So that's all I really have to say. Bye bye. God bless.